Good morning and welcome back to PlannerCraft. I'm Natalie and today I'm going to be designing a glueless box. So before I go too far, do you want to do hellos and things again?
I haven't got anybody here.
Oh, not too quick. So let's zoom into the matter bit so that we can actually see what we're doing.
Deb says hi and is waving.
Hello!
That's
And hello
perfect.
to Badger and Rabbit as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Morning, Linda.
Is that Linda with an I with a Y?
By the way.
I have to check these days. It's like Tracy's.
Amazing.
Hi Mum. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a square. And before I go too far, I'm just going to size that down. And let's just change to a different unit, shall we? Let's go inches. Don't need to be that precise today, so let's go. 2-inch box? Or should I go for a 3-inch box, Ian? Let's go 3, shall we?
3, why not?
Okay. So with our glueless box, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start work on one side. Then we're going to rotate it round so that we have another one over here.
So you have Trish and Tracy. And she said, hi all, speaking of Tracy. Hello.
We're then going to bring a copy down here to use as a reference, and we're going to build this side. And finally we're going to add a box to the middle and weld it all together to make our glueless box. So first things first, we need to add some tabs to our side here. And to do that, I'm just going to use our little squished hexagon, is it? I think. And it's the one we usually use for glue tabs. And we only want it reasonably tiny. So I'm going to bring that up here. And I'm going to do it so it overlaps this edge here. Now if we click again, we can get to our nodes. We can click and drag across our 2 nodes here. And we're going to come up to the top and we're going to change them to curves.
Morning, Carol. Morning, Sarah Lou. Very well this glorious morning.
Okay. And with the handles, I'm just going to put them so that they are either horizontal or vertical, depending on which point you're doing. We're going to come round to the next one, and we're going to do the same again, so that we can finish off this curve here. There we go. And that's going to go to horizontal. And the same here, that's going to go to a curve. That's going to go to vertical, and it will snap. And
Can you move your mat a little bit to the
it's
left? 'Cause the most
right in the wrong place. There we go.
That's better. It's a bit far, but it's fine.
Okay. So if you're working in Affinity, that's how you can do it. You can use that shape and do it that way. Or if you're working in Canvas, we can just use a rounded rectangle and bring that in. So the idea being that we've got this nice curved tab that's going to go and pop into a slot. Now, for the purpose of this sort of length of side, we're going to want sort of 2 to hold that side nicely. So if we press and hold Alt and then click and drag, we're going to get a duplicate. And again, and again. So we know all 4 shapes are identical. This is going to be where you want to use your align tool. So you can use align whenever you have 2 or more shapes selected. So I'm going to align that to the top so that we know that they're level. We're going to align these 2 to the bottom so we know they're level. Then we can work across our side. So in this case, I'm going to go so they're aligned to the right.
Deb says, I do wish I could get my head around those, know what they do, but can't seem to control them. Need more practice.
Yeah, practice is the way to go. So with nodes you have to think like they are a dot to dot, and then that handle that comes out of them is saying how long it stays roughly on that path, and then the handle in the next section is the entry point into the next node. But for more on that, be sure to sign up for our intro course, because we're going to be going into lots of drawing with just 2 nodes, 3 nodes, so you really do learn it right from basics upwards.
Tracy says, this is where I like the undo button with the nodes law. And Jen says, morning Jen, and she says she's received icons poster. Thank you.
Cool. So I'm going to group these tabs now that we know that they're right. Okay. And then we can use distribute objects to make sure that they're all spaced evenly. Okay. So at this point we can select all of it and we're going to weld it. So I'm going to flip this one just in case it's not quite central, but it should be. Are you alright?
Yeah. Glad I've got the chat window open.
Okay, so I'm going to add another copy, and this time we're going to rotate it, so we need to rotate it 90 degrees, like so.
Trace says yours makes mistakes with them but loves deleting the nodes that shouldn't be there, so it helps with the cutting.
Yes. So we're going to line this up, and at this point you're going to be thinking, but that's not going to work. That's because these tabs are going to disappear in a minute.
Morning Beatrice.
They're just there as a guide. So at this point we need to decide roughly how big a gap we want here.
Because it looks like a Lego piece.
Just rather.
Yeah. And evening to the other Tracy in Oz as well.
So I've exaggerated the size of my tabs for this one, so if you want to make your tabs a little smaller you can do. It's just easier for you to see what I'm doing if I make it a little bit
Morning,
bigger.
Sally Ann. Sorry, Sally.
So I'm just going to lock these 2 so I don't select them by accident. Okay, and I'm going to change my line colour to a kind of blue, so I know it's just a guide and it's not to stay there. Now let's bring in another square. And we're going to go to edit. We're going to untick the maintain aspect ratio, and we can give it a height of 3. So we know that's going to be at the right height, and we can then adjust that to fit our boxes that we've left on that. Like so. Now we're going to put a tab on here and a tab on here. Now bear in mind we've got these in the way at the moment. Let's just get this in the right place first. So it's important we get this bit right before we start adding tabs on. Okay. So the tabs we're going to add next are going to go all the way down this side and they're going to have 2 holes in that these tabs are going to slot into. Which is why I said it's kind of important that you kind of ignore what this tab's doing for a second and just focus on this glue tab here. So let's bring in a little trapezium. I'm just going to shrink it up so it matches the same height. So we can see it's got width of 300 because it's rotated. And I can bring that in a bit. Okay. If we click again, we can get to our nodes. And we can actually drag that node down. It's a little better. We're going to duplicate that, so press and hold Alt, click and drag. And to make life nice and easy, we can just flip it. And again we'll line that up. Okay, so if we select those 3 shapes and we set our distribute space to nothing, if we then do that, it's going to budge it all up, and we know it's going to be smack on for doing the welding. That's the theory anyway. And there you go. So then what you can do is we're going to put in a path from point to point and click again to finish your line so it stays open. We're going to make that line a perforated line. Okay, so we can do the same this side. Click, 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 and perforate it. Next we're going to want to do our slots for this bit. So if I bring in a rectangle so you can see this a little easier. Let's bring that down there. So you want to line up your slots so that they're a little bit narrower than your glue tab, so you're going to have to wiggle it in a little bit because you don't want it to go too loose. But you definitely don't want to bring it level there with the top of the tab. You're going to bring it in just a touch, like so. Now, because it's not a guide, I'm just going to make that red so you can see that nice and clearly. And we're going to do the same down here. So we can take that same reference if you want and move that down there. So again we're going to go about halfway. Then we can go back to our path tool. So just press P for path. And I'm just going to press and hold shift if it'll behave. It's trying to snap. So if it does try and do that, just go a little bit shorter and then we can extend it after. And click again to finish the line. Let's just zoom in so you can see that a bit clearer. Because we want to be accurate as well. I'm just going to drag that node back there, and then this node needs to come up to there, like so. Now you may struggle to get a hold of that line and do an alt and drag, so if we go into our layers palette and we select just that cut line, if we go down to the bottom, there's a little duplicate button next to the recycle bin, which you may or may not be able to see at the moment.
No, because it's in your project.
Okay. It's because I stretched it the other day when I was doing the filming, so I apologise. So I'm going to duplicate that, and it's going to place another copy, and it's going to be slightly offset. And we can do the same over here. do the same again, so duplicate it again. We can drag it down like so. Duplicate it again. Take it over here.
Why is it different places on both sides?
Because me side panels are different size.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
yeah, I'm not trying to be awkward.
it's not a square bottom box. Okay. So now we can take all our coloured shapes away because they're all guides.
Should I test if your mouse was playing up?
No, I don't think so. Okay. So while we're kind of in our scoring mode, our blue tabs here, we are going to want to fold. So again, we can go to our path tool and we can go point to point.
Oh, what you mean? Because it's not snapping. Or for the snapping.
It might be because of the snapping. It hasn't quite got to the level of some other programs, like the Finish is really good with its snapping controls.
Just suddenly let you heard when it was playing up. It must be really loud next to that.
Yeah. Yeah, if I could move the mic to there I would, but I can't.
Further away, so it's not quite so
Deafening.
that seems better.
There we go. And finally, I want to take all of these, I'm going to group them. And then I can put that up there. I can flip it. Not that way, the other way. Always go up a bit more. There we go. And I can go in there. Like so. And then we just need to do our weld in the middle. I'm going to bring in another square. And it doesn't matter if it overlaps on the two edges there, just don't try and overlap all four at once. Just going to ungroup these now, so Command Shift G or Control Shift G, just so I can get to those main shapes, like so. And weld that. Then we need to unlock our two side panels as well. And we can weld that. And there's always one that misbehaves, isn't there? Okay. Come on. If it does have a hissy fit sometimes, and it will, can do is just put another block over the top, and we can use that as a kind of plaster. So that's just going to leave you these two little tags here, and we'll sort those once we've finished doing our welding. On the other hand, I'll go and sort it first then. It's going to have one of those days today. So if we're going to node,
stop bagging.
Just take those out.
25 minutes.
Huh?
You've only done 25 minutes. Stop bagging.
There we go. Try again. There we go.
That's what you can see.
So if I zoom out, there you go. So next we just need to put in our score line for our bottom. So I'm just going to use the path tool for this, because then I can go point to point and know that it's accurate. And put our perforation in. So it's up to you at this point whether you want to have your score lines as a draw or as a cut. I tend to do it as a cut if it's particularly thick card, just because it's easier for it to then bend. But it really does depend what you're working with. If you're working with a coloured card that has a white core and it's prone to cracking, what I would suggest is, instead of trying to mark your score line on something simple like this where it's all angles, use a scoreboard and just gently, slowly stretch your card with a scoring tool, just so you don't crack it.
Teflon will be good.
Yes, Teflon, very good. Not biased at all. Have we put that up in the group yet?
What Teflon one? Don't know.
Probably not. So we will do that later. Or I will. Okay. So in terms of doing a lid, you can follow the same process if you want to. Or if you want to do a glued lid, or you can even put in a like a flat lid if you want to, depending on the size of your box.
So how would you make that bigger if you wanted to?
How much bigger do you want it?
I don't know.
Okay, if you want to make it bigger, just generally all over, you can just select all and use a corner and drag it out that way. If you want to change the size of this bottom section here, then you do have to working on that section and now to bring that in and do it that way. So you would do that for each
what's that,
shape.
Not too 4 by 3.5.
Yeah, it's slightly larger than 4 across there.
Just wondering what sort of maximum size we can get out of the 12 by 12.
In terms of maximum size of out of a 12 by 12, it depends on the depth of the box, because obviously you're limited at the moment because you've got this depth box. If you were going to a shallower box, then you can go bigger. Yeah. But I would suggest, if you're going to go particularly shallow, then don't use a glueless box. Go for one that's glued and work from there.
And Paracord Pete says hello from Twitch.
Hello.
Jesus has lost you. In which way did we lose you, Tracy?
Okay, so if I save this, and it's probably easier if I show what I mean. So I'll just save that as an example.
Give it a name.
was that? Squarish. Okay. Then I can go new. So let's say you wanted a bigger box, but you don't want it so deep. Then you don't need to go up a map size, basically.
The internet, no.
Oh dear, that's no good. So let's say you want to do a card box, and let's go for an 8x8, shall we? So there's our 8x8. And I'm going to leave that right in the middle of the mat. It's a good one for testing out calibration. And let's put that one as a perforation, because that's going to be the bottom of my box.
Is this software free to use? Yes, it is.
Yes.
This is the Canvas software, which is supplied by Brother.
For use with the ScanNCut.
For use with the ScanNCut, so yes. It is a free set of software that they supply.
You can download it from support.brother.com and then go to Cutting Machines and select your model and your operating system from there. So it's available for Mac and PC. There's also an online version for those that don't have a computer, so that you can use it on a tablet or phone. Yep, support.brother.com.
Yeah. Canvas.
Okay, so I'm going to put in a straight line that's going to go up to my score line, and you want to go careful that keeping this within your red line here, and then you can just snip the excess with a pair of scissors. Okay, so there's our first line. We can take that line, press and hold Alt and drag a copy, and I'm going to rotate that round each side. So I'm not going to worry about getting it exactly lined up just at this moment, because we can go back and do that after. That's okay. So if we zoom in, there we go. So let it snap to that point. I'm just going to bring in off that red line. Same here, so snap to that point, bring in. Now you'll notice that your cutting line isn't even all the way round. So you do need to go through and just check that. So that makes the base, and we can leave that as a black line. Now to make the lid, we're going to bring in another square, and let's go for 8.1. See whether that's too big. There we go. What?
It's a favourite temptation, people trying to tempt us.
Okay, so I'm going to colour this one greenish and then put that as another perforated line, and we can do the exact same process again, but this time we're going to be working with the green line. So if we hide all our black elements, so we can group those all together, and we can call that box base. and hide it. Then we have our box lid here. And we can do the same process again. And we'll colour those green. And I'll group those together. Then we can just take those around on that. Use your Alt and drag for another duplicate, and to snap your rotation you're going to press and hold Shift. So that works in most design software, so if you're doing this in Affinity, Illustrator, CorelDRAW, Inkscape, they all work pretty much the same. So again I'm going to click and access the nodes. If it's going to let me, or if it can be naughty. Come on. Ungroup it first to be easier. There we go. If I go into the node, it's going to snap, which is good. Then when you are done putting your box together, or cutting it out I should say, you're going to want to just chamfer this glue tab here. So this sort of box is ideal for doing for your card boxes. And your fold line for each side is actually going to extend right out to here. So you can choose to put that in if you want, or you can just fold it by hand. So if you were to put this in, for instance, it would look something like this.
Carson, I take it that works for oblong boxes as well as square.
Yes, yep, it's all the same process. Start with your base shape for this one, and then work your way outwards. And we can go fresh enough for that. So then each of these glue tabs folds around, goes inside this one, then that one folds in and goes inside that one folds in and goes inside that one, and folds in and that goes inside that one.
Do you want to save that one as well?
Yes, I will do. We did do another video, didn't we, where we did how to work out boxes, which talks about actually designing a box to fit something. So that's how to measure for a box. So that's worth going back and watching, and that's on the Affinity Designer playlist. So if you go on facebook.com/PlannerCraft/live_videos now, isn't it?
Changed it again.
/ and then I think you do / then the playlist name, which should be Vintage Designer. So if you just go on the live videos page, you can scroll down and find the playlist. So, shall I call that a day for that? And we're going to cut them out and make them tomorrow, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, just you've got to dash off, haven't you now?
Yes. Watercolour at 4 o'clock.
Yes, watercolour at 4. I've put up the reference file for today because we're doing a still life from a photo. And Ian's taking a photo as a challenge.
You don't always take the photo. Why is doing that?
So, take care.
So yes, it's a very clever note. I'm still practicing.
Yes, yeah. So with your nodes, it all starts right from basics, from dot to dot. So if you start with 2, then you've got a line. Or if you want to, you can do a simple curve with 2. There's a lot you can do just by using 2 and 3 nodes, and your machine will like you for that too, because it finds that nice and easy to handle, doesn't it?
Yeah. Beatrice says thank you, Tracy says bye guys, thank you.
That's okay. So, nice quick one for today.
Leslie.
Yes, you have Leslie at 12:30, and she's going through the samples that she took through Chanda for oh, it's gone blank. Was the afternoon show, and my brain's just yeah.
Good afternoon, Joe. Okay.
So that'd be well worth watching if you want to get some inspiration. Came up with a few ideas that I wanted to try out and experiment with yesterday, so it's well worth watching. And if you can watch yesterday's back as well, then that's really good. So, if you do have any problems today at all, just message the group. I will be checking sporadically throughout the day, but I'm also going to be filming today. So I will see Carol and probably June later. And Sally if she's able to come along.
Jen
if she's feeling like it and up to it. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Tomorrow we'll be back at 11 doing the putting these boxes together and decorating them. And then probably going to do a 2 o'clock on something a bit different. Because we haven't done anything new for a while, have we? So it's about time we did new.
New.
Yeah. So, take care and we'll see you then.